This is not a lack of ambition. You spent the first 2 hours of your morning replying to emails while the project you wanted to start remains untouched. You aren't lazy, you're just overthinking the start. You resort your inbox to feel like you did something. I used to organize my desk for hours before opening a document. You'll understand why response mode traps you and how to move without waiting for a push. A hidden force keeps you frozen.
The cost of staying on standby. You clear your schedule to finally make progress. The afternoon is wide open and the tools sit right in front of you. Yet you spend 40 minutes sorting pens on your desk to avoid the first step. The damage is already counting. You already tried forcing the issue. You set earlier alarms and wrote aggressive lists on sticky notes, hoping discipline would save you. It didn't hold. The pattern came back anyway. This isn't a permanent defect. Psychologists call this state orientation. In plain words, it means getting stuck in the thinking phase. Your focus locks onto how you feel instead of the action itself. You freeze. Every time you wait for the right mood, you lose a little more ground to a habit that looks like patience. The delay can feel safe, but the quiet cost is that you may start doubting your own decisions. You chew on every past mistake and future risk until the delay drains your momentum. Without outside pressure, taking the first step can feel much harder, so you remain in the same place longer than you intended. The real danger has nothing to do with your calendar. You may find that when you feel hesitant, it begins to feel like you are stuck, making it harder to maintain your momentum.
Why you only return the serve. One path clears the inbox. The other builds your project. You mistake reacting to other people's emergencies for doing your own work. Same warning. You would rather answer 10 useless messages than face the quiet of your own ambition. Outside pressure forces an easy reaction. When a message lands, you don't have to decide what matters. You hit the problem straight back. You're playing a tennis match where you only ever return the serve, and you never serve the ball yourself. Hitting someone else's priority back over the net feels incredibly productive. You gain zero actual ground. Deciding ahead of time exactly when and where you'll act removes the sudden need for outside pressure. Write down the exact time and place for one specific move. You made the choice in advance, so the heavy friction of deciding in the moment completely disappears. The deadline lives on the physical paper. Sharp. This demand for an external push doesn't stay at the office. Your own personal creative work carries the exact same burden.
Waiting for the fear to pass. The blank document sits on your monitor, untouched since Tuesday. You believe you need to be ready before you make the initial move. Telling yourself the anxiety is too heavy, you close the laptop. That feels like respect for the process. It's a guaranteed stall. Clinical. Checking your internal temperature becomes the only activity you accomplish. A slight flutter in your chest hits, and you immediately back away. Focusing heavily on how you feel makes it harder to transition from thinking to doing. The mood never arrives because the action is what creates the mood. Energetic and instructional. Waiting for the engine of motivation to start before you move is often a trap. You have to move first to get the engine running. Picture a parked vehicle on an empty street. You sit in the driver's seat, staring at the dashboard, holding out for the fuel gauge to read full before you turn the key. The needle stays dead. The engine has to run to get you anywhere.
Watch the case you build. You're already defending your lack of progress to an empty room, pleading that you need to feel better before starting. Nobody is prosecuting you. You hand down a verdict over a timeline that only exists in your head, then use that guilt as a reason to do nothing. The physical move breaks the loop. Start the action before checking how you feel. Type one terrible sentence. You'll find yourself building the next paragraph without deciding to, because your hands took over while the mind was still complaining. This heavy reluctance can sometimes function as a way to avoid taking full responsibility for an outcome, allowing you to defer blame if things go wrong. You have seen how this keeps you frozen. What happens when the stakes aren't just in your head, but in front of someone who is actually waiting for that file?
The safe hiding place of response. Why is it such a relief when someone else finally makes the call? Because if they choose, you can't be wrong. You hold back for another person to initiate so you never have to take responsibility for the outcome. Easygoing is the name you use for it. The restaurant selection falls to them, shifting the blame if the pizza's cold. Picture an automatic door. Expectation keeps your feet planted, assuming the glass will slide apart on its own. Motion sensors require a physical step forward to trigger the mechanism. The glass stays shut until you provide the motion.
Giving them the wheel means you stop building the muscle of choosing. Every time you let others consistently decide for you, you may be missing opportunities to exercise your own agency, which can make it feel like you are letting others steer your life. Relief washes over you when they take charge, but that physical release is a trick. A stranger now holds veto power over your choices. Choosing for yourself is a small, reversible experiment that builds your confidence over time. This reflex shapes your biggest life plans. Surrendering your career to whoever speaks first costs you more than just one job. The damage happens in the slow erosion of your own preferences, and you haven't felt the full cost of that yet.
When preparation becomes the delay,
you tried reorganizing the closet. It didn't hold. You tried gathering more research to make the work feel easier. That didn't work either. Endless planning is just a sophisticated way to stall. That stack of notes is a bicycle instruction manual you read 10 times instead of getting on the seat. The paper gives the illusion of motion. Browser tabs remain full of tool comparisons for a project without a single written word. A week passes. The pedals remain untouched. Learning becomes a permanent hiding spot. Creating a simple plan automates the work, separating the choice from the moment of execution. Treat that written time as an external deadline. Treating your own schedule as a fixed rule mimics the external demand you usually lean on. Your jaw sets. The endless research loop snaps. More data won't save the project. Reframe the habit before you open another tab. Label the next tutorial you watch as a deliberate choice to hide. Calling it research gives you a perfect excuse to avoid the blank page. Treat that written time as an external deadline. You have enough manuals, the only thing left is the ride.
How to make the first move.
You see why response mode traps you. Every delay has one route. You have been waiting for someone to authorize your start, not realizing you always held the pen. These are the 6 traps behind your emails. Write down the exact time and place for one specific move. Treat that written time as an external deadline. Start the action before checking how you feel. Skip the emails and subscribe. What is one project you have been waiting to feel ready for?